organisation you co-founded just over 13 years ago, which is the Human Rights Arts and Films Festival. What inspired you to start that?
Yeah, so I had just recently come back from Denmark. I was on exchange studying human rights law there. And what really struck me when I came back from Denmark to Australia was, I suppose, the difference in the level of education about human rights in Denmark compared to in Australia. In Denmark, there's quite a lot of education, particularly at secondary school, about the World War, about how the Universal Declaration of Human Rights began. And in that sense, there's a little bit more of a, I suppose, cultural acceptance, at least from what I observed. Other people may have a differing view now, especially. But in Australia, I didn't learn about human rights at school, and I learnt only about it in a kind of a thick textbook in a very specialised law subject, human rights law. And for me, that was problematic, because I think that human rights are very important for everyone. I think it's really important that mainstream society has a really good understanding about human rights, and that it's not just siloed to people who study the law or who understand the law. It's something that I feel that everyone should understand, so that we can live in a peaceful society. And so basically I was procrastinating and trying not to study for my corporation's law exam, and I was Googling human rights and festivals and happened to stumble on the fact that there were human rights festivals pretty much everywhere in the world except for in Australia. And so that's what really I suppose sparked my imagination to think, well, maybe we should start a human rights festival here in Australia, because then we could use film, we could use the arts to talk to people about human rights and about the fact that we are all human, despite all of our differences. You know, we share this common humanity, and I think that's a really important message, particularly now when society can be so divided about so many different things. It's really important to know that we are all human, that we all deserve equal rights.
Yeah. Now you're in the process of putting together the program for 2019, the
Yes.
the films for 2019. What do you look for? What type of films can we expect?
So I'm chairperson at the moment. I was at the very beginning involved in selecting the films, but I don't do that as now. There's a fabulous team involved in selecting the films, but what they're really looking for is trying to find films that inspire, that challenge, that enlighten people, but really that kind of have stories that are engaging and relatable, so that, you know, when you're in the audience and you're looking on the screen, you don't think that you're learning about human rights from a law textbook, but it's about stories, and it's about you know, people's experiences, and in that way people can relate to the people that are on the screen. So I think it's not about preaching. I think films that tend to labour their point aren't very effective films, and the festival is not about trying to tell people what to think. It's really about trying to get a diversity of stories out for people to see and to make their own decisions about various issues. So I've just had a sneak peek of the program earlier this week, and it looks fantastic. I'm really, really excited for the selection of films that we're going to be screening.
How many are there, and what topics do they cover?
So I can't remember from the top of my head how many, but I think it's around the 30 to 40 mark. We've got short films and feature films. And in terms of broad themes, there's a theme kind of borderline, which is about global conflicts and people movement. So obviously a huge issue in Australia is the fact that people you know, are seeking asylum, and Australia's treatment of those people who are seeking asylum. So there are Australian films based on that, as well as international films that look at other countries' policies on that issue. We also look at gender equality, so we have a great lineup of films that really put empowering women's stories up front, from various different cultures and various different places. We are also looking at the impact between climate change and human rights it's a fact that the people who are going to be most affected by climate change tend to be those that are most vulnerable. So having a look at the possible human rights impact of all those environmental changes. And I'm going to forget all the different other themes, but there are a few other themes that I can't quite think of.
No, that's fine. And how do people, I suppose, watch them? Where do they go?
So our films screen at ACME for about 2 weeks in May. So as soon as the program is launched, which is going to be in about April, please make sure you jump onto the website www.hraff.org.au to check it out.